were your projections to the final numbers?
Yep. So we just sold it. So we were super ahead of projections,
Mhm.
like very ahead of projections. We're very conservative when we do our underwriting for these types of deals. And luckily, we structured the deal great. And then
Mhm.
there was so much add value so immediately that we turned a 5 cap deal, which was really a 7 cap market.
Mhm.
And we got that 5 cap property into a 12 cap in like 6 months.
So taking a step back for everyone that's listening, caps. What is a 5, a 7, a 12 cap?
So a cap rate is essentially like if you bought the property all cash, it's your cash on cash return,
Mhm.
essentially. And so we were new to self storage and new to this market in Sebring, Florida. So we called brokers in the area, like, what would a property, self storage property, trade for in this market?
Mhm.
And they said a 7 cap. So meaning that people in this area buying self storage, if they bought it all cash, they would want a 7% cash on cash return for that asset.
Mhm.
These sellers wanted a 5 cap, which is like 30% higher
Right.
price than what was the market price would be.
Mhm.
But we were willing to pay that price, one, because we got good terms. And number two, there was immediate add value that didn't really require capital expenditures. They didn't really require putting more money into the property.
Got it. So it's like for the house perspective, it's like a wholetail,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it didn't require very much work, and
Yep.
you can immediately sell
Yep.
it for more.
Exactly. Little paint, little lipstick, stuff like
Yeah.
that. For us, it was he had a tree company that was utilizing this large single story building.
Mm.
And so he sold the business, which is why he sold the self storage because it was on one parcel. And they ran the self storage as this just extra income. They weren't really trying to maximize that. They had a very successful tree business. So they sold the tree business. They move out. We moved a tenant in for like $17.50 a month. That drastically increases the value of the property,
Mm.
increases the income. And then we had the rent was pretty much 50% below market. So we were able to, we did all the add value first
Mhm.
because it was right in the middle of COVID. And then we increased everybody's rent. Literally, one lady moved out who had 3 units, everybody else stayed. And we literally just doubled the rent. So it was immediate add value without really having to do much else.
Got it. And so you said like 2.5 years ago. So like you just exited this property.
We sold it on February 28th.
So this is not a simple flip.
We probably could have sold it right away.
Mhm.
But my intention getting into self storage was never to sell them. Like I was like, I have my wholesale business that makes me money. Like I want to hold these for long term wealth.
Mhm.
But when from being in a mastermind with self storage, these guys were all packaging facilities and selling them off, and I was like, should I be doing that? And
Yeah.
they're like, well, you got to look at your return on equity. You're making this much money per month on cash flow. If you sold it after costs and everything, what would you net? And so if you can net $1 million and you're only making, $30,000 a year, well, then you're making like 3% on your money. Could
Mhm.
you make more than 3% if you had that $1 million cash?
Mhm.
Yes, we can make 20+% returns on a lot of deals. And so it makes sense to sell that property unless it's like a class A facility that we feel like is a legacy asset where we're going to hold it for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm young, I'm not retiring. It only makes sense to move it and buy something else bigger
So
and maximize return.
being in a different room causes you to ask different questions.
100%, yeah.
So you bought this with the intent, I'm going to hold this forever.
Essentially.
And then someone's like, hey, Alex, you're not realizing that the $1 million from this self-storage could yield a much better return elsewhere.
Exactly.
And that's the power of being in the right rooms.
Exactly. 100%.
So first deal, I mean, I don't think that's a grand slam. I think that's a World Series grand slam, right? Like if you want to become one of our 100 millionaires, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now.